never reported what happened that night, but it still follows me. My name is Dr. Elena Vasquez, and I have worked as a clinical psychiatrist at Atascadero State Hospital in California for 17 years. I've evaluated over 3,000 patients in maximum security. I've heard confessions that would empty churches. I've documented delusions so elaborate they could fill libraries. But I had never heard a language that made my skin crawl until I met patient 473. It was late October when they brought him in. Transfer from county, mid-30s, catatonic presentation, no identification, no records. The intake notes listed him as John Doe. He hadn't spoken in 6 weeks, according to the county psychiatrist. Standard admission, standard evaluation, nothing unusual. I remember the fluorescent lights humming in the evaluation room, the way his eyes tracked nothing, how his hands lay perfectly still on the metal table. I asked standard questions: name, date, location. He stared through me like I was vapor. Then I stood to leave. That's when he spoke. The sound wasn't English, wasn't Spanish. It rolled out of him in syllables that felt wrong in my ears, consonants that clicked too sharply, vowels that seemed to bend backward. I froze with my hand on the door. He kept speaking, the same phrases, over and over. His voice never changed pitch, never paused for breath. I called for a language specialist the next morning. Dr. Chen arrived from UC Berkeley 2 days later. She recorded 473 for 6 hours. He never stopped, never ate, never drank, just spoke in that grinding, ancient rhythm. Dr. Chen looked pale when she emerged. "Where did you find him?" she asked. "County transfer. Why?" She showed me her tablet, symbols, hundreds of them, hand-drawn from the audio analysis software. These match engravings found in the basement of a colonial-era asylum in Massachusetts, she said. The building was sealed in 1872 after a mass casualty event. 17 staff dead. No explanation in the records. That's impossible. He's never left California. I know. 473 spoke for 11 days straight. His voice never cracked, never wavered. The night shift reported that other patients in Ward 7B began pressing their faces against their cell windows, all facing his room, just watching. Some were moving their lips, silently mouthing his words. On day 12, Dr. Chen returned with 2 colleagues, a linguist from Harvard and an anthropologist who specialized in dead languages. They set up equipment in the observation room: microphones, cameras, spectrographic analysis. They recorded for 3 hours. Then 473 stopped, mid-syllable. He stopped. His mouth closed, his eyes focused. He looked directly at the camera, directly at us through the one-way glass, and he smiled. Dr. Chen's equipment began malfunctioning. The audio feeds screeched with feedback. The monitors flickered. One of the cameras shattered, just split apart, the lens spiderwebbing from the inside out. The lights went out. In the darkness, I heard breathing, close, too close. The observation room door was locked. We were alone, but I felt something move past me. Cold, deliberate, the smell of old earth and copper. When the backup generators kicked in, 473 was standing, facing the glass, His lips were moving, but no sound emerged. The anthropologist was shaking. She kept whispering, "It's not possible. It's not possible." "What's not possible?" I asked. "That language died in 1643. Security sedated 473 that night. Standard protocol. They strapped him to the bed. 4-point restraints. He didn't resist, just kept smiling, his eyes open, watching the ceiling. I reviewed the audio files at home. I shouldn't have, but I needed to understand. 3 hours in, I heard it. Underneath 473's voice was another voice, layered, speaking in perfect English. It was reciting names, staff names, my name. I stopped the recording. My hands were shaking. The timestamp showed the English voice appeared 6 minutes before Dr. Chen's equipment malfunctioned. 6 minutes before the breathing in the dark. When I returned to the hospital the next morning, Ward 7B was empty. Not just 473, all 16 patients. Transferred, the director said. Immediate order, no explanation. The ward was being sealed for a structural evaluation. I found Dr. Chen in the parking lot. She was loading her car, leaving. She wouldn't look at me. "What did you find?" I asked. The language he spoke was Wampanoag, a dead dialect used by a single tribe in the 1600s. She opened her car door. They performed rituals, binding rituals, to trap something in physical form. Trap what? The ritual wasn't to trap something. Her voice cracked. It was to keep something from getting out. She drove away. I pulled 473's file that afternoon. It was empty, not redacted, empty, like he was never admitted. I checked the security footage. The timestamp from his evaluation room showed static. 11 days of static. But I have the audio file. I saved it to my personal drive. Sometimes, late at night, I play it, just to confirm I'm not imagining things. That it happened last week. I heard a patient in Ward 9C speaking. Same consonants, same rhythm, same bending vowels. I walked past his room. I didn't stop. I never reported what happened in Ward 7B, and I never will. But sometimes, when I'm alone in the evaluation rooms, I hear breathing. Close, too close, and I know something followed me home. There's a room in this hospital we're never supposed to open. I know why. My name is Marcus Reeves, and I have worked as a psychiatric security officer at Oregon State Hospital in Salem for 9 years. I've restrained violent patients. I've talked down suicide attempts. I've seen things that would make most people quit. But nothing prepared me for C-Wing. Nothing prepared me for Patient 218. The wing was built in 1927. Isolation cells for the criminally insane. Thick walls, reinforced doors, observation windows barely 6 inches wide. Most of the cells were decommissioned years ago. Too old, too brutal by modern standards. But C-Wing stayed operational. We kept 12 patients there, the ones who couldn't be anywhere else. 218 arrived on a Tuesday. Paranoid schizophrenia with violent tendencies. Court-ordered indefinite commitment. He was 41 years old, thin, quiet, the kind of quiet that feels wrong. He never made eye contact, never spoke, just stared at walls. Standard admission, standard protocols. Then the voices started. It was 3 weeks into his stay. Night shift. Was doing my rounds with Officer Davidson. We passed C Wing Cell 7, empty, scheduled for maintenance, but we heard talking. Not talking, conversation. Two voices, clear as glass through the door. Davidson's voice and mine. We stopped. I looked at Davidson. He was pale. The voices continued. We were having a conversation about the Trailblazers game, word for word. The exact conversation we'd had 20 minutes ago in the break room. I unlocked the observation window. The cell was empty, bare concrete, no furniture, no equipment, but the voices kept going. My voice laughed. Davidson's voice complained about the refs. Then silence. Davidson reported it. Supervisor said we were tired. Overnight shifts mess with your head. Standard dismissal. We let it go. 2 nights later, it happened again. This time it was Nurse Carver's voice, coming from 218's cell. She was on the other side of the building. I checked. She was charting in the medication room, but her voice was in his cell, talking to someone, laughing, having a full conversation about her daughter's recital. I checked the observation window. 218 was asleep, sedated, hadn't moved in 4 hours according to the log, but Nurse Carver's voice kept talking. I radioed her. Can you come to C Wing? I'm busy with charts. Now, please. When she arrived, her voice was still coming from the cell. We stood there, the 3 of us, listening to her talk about piano lessons and ballet shoes. Her face went white. How is that possible? She whispered. I opened the observation window wider. 218 was motionless, eyes closed, breathing steady. But the voice continued, her voice, from somewhere in the cell, somewhere we couldn't see. Then it stopped. Carver left, filed a report. Nothing came of it. The incidents escalated. We started hearing entire conversations. Staff meetings we'd had in hours before. Private phone calls. Arguments in the break room. All coming from 218's cell. Perfect mimicry. Every inflection, every pause, but he was always sedated when it happened, always asleep. Security footage confirmed it every time. Dr. Hillman ordered a full psychiatric evaluation, speech pathology, neurological testing. They found nothing abnormal. 218 remained nonverbal during assessments, completely unresponsive, but at night, the voices returned. 1 week later, I heard my wife's voice. I was walking past cell 11, empty cell, decommissioned, but I heard Sarah, my wife, crying, talking to someone about our son, about his diagnosis, the conversation we'd had in our kitchen 2 nights ago, private, just the 2 of us. Every word, every sob, perfect. My hands shook as I opened the observation window. The cell was empty, dark, but her voice echoed off the concrete, pleading, asking questions I couldn't answer then and can't answer now. I slammed the window shut. I requested a transfer the next day. They denied it. Short-staffed. Protocol. I was stuck. 3 nights later, Davidson didn't show up for shift. No call, no message, just gone. Supervisor said he quit, effective immediately. No notice. I worked C Wing alone that night. 218 was awake, standing at his door, staring through the observation window. First time I'd seen him standing in weeks. His eyes locked on mine. Then I heard my voice, behind me, in the hallway, my voice, talking to Davidson. The conversation we'd had about requesting transfers, word for word. But Davidson was gone, and I was alone. I spun around. The hallway was empty, fluorescent lights humming, no one there, but my voice continued. Behind me, in front of me, surrounding me, echoing through Sea Wing like something alive. I ran. I'm not proud of it, but I ran. I made it to the security station, locked the door, my chest heaving. I checked the monitors. Sea Wing cameras showed an empty hallways. 218 standing at his window, smiling. Then every speaker in the facility activated at once. My voice, Davidson's voice, Carver's voice, Dr. Hillman's voice, all speaking simultaneously, overlapping, conversations from weeks ago, layered, distorted, growing louder. The monitors went dark. In the silence that followed, I heard breathing through the security station door, slow, deliberate, like someone standing right outside. I didn't open it. I stayed locked inside until morning shift arrived. When they unsealed the door, Sea Wing was quiet. 218 was sedated, lying in his bed. The cameras showed nothing unusual. No audio anomalies, no malfunctions. But I knew Dr. Hillman filed a report recommending 218 be transferred to a federal facility. Maximum security, psychiatric prison, out of state. The recommendation was approved within 48 hours. They moved him on a Friday. I watched them load him into the transport van. He never looked back, never spoke, just stared straight ahead. Sea Wing was sealed the following week. Structural concerns, they said. Immediate decommission. No staff allowed inside. I still work at Oregon State Hospital. Different wing, different patients. I don't talk about Sea Wing, and I never walk past those sealed doors. But sometimes, late at night, I hear my voice talking to someone, somewhere in the building, having conversations I never had. And I wonder what else he learned to mimic, what else is still speaking, in the dark. I didn't believe in the dead returning until one of them asked me for help. My name is Rachel Torres, and I have worked as a registered nurse at Bridgewater State Hospital in Massachusetts for 12 years. I've handled aggressive patients. I've managed medication schedules for violent offenders. I've witnessed suicide attempts and psychotic breaks that required full restraint teams. But I had never seen someone completely motionless for 3 years. Not until patient 09. His real name was redacted in the system. Court order. All we had was his patient number and diagnosis, catatonic schizophrenia. He'd been transferred from a state prison after attacking 3 guards. The evaluation said he stopped moving the day after the attack. Just stopped. Like someone hit a pause button on his entire body. He sat in a wheelchair, always. His hands rested on the armrests, his head tilted slightly left, eyes open, staring at nothing. We fed him through a tube, changed his catheter, bathed him. He never responded, never blinked, never moved. 3 years, 1,094 days of absolute stillness. I took over his care rotation in February. Standard assignment, vital checks every 4 hours, medication administration, basic hygiene, simple work, sad work, but simple. The other nurses said he gave them nightmares. Something about his eyes, the way they never closed, never tracked movement, just stared, always staring. I didn't mind at first. Day 1095 started normal. I checked his vitals at 6 in the morning. Temperature normal, pulse steady, breathing regular. I documented everything. Changed his IV, adjusted his blanket. He stared through me like always. I moved on to my other patients. At 3:47 that afternoon, every clock in the facility stopped, not slowed, stopped. Digital displays froze, analog hands locked in place, the wall clock in the med room, the monitors at the nurse's station, my watch, everything. 3:47. I thought it was a power surge, but the lights stayed on. Equipment kept running, just the clocks, all of them, frozen. Then I heard running, footsteps, multiple people coming from the secured ward, voices shouting. I grabbed my radio and ran toward the noise. The secured ward hallway was chaos. 3 nurses, 2 orderlies, all standing outside patient 09's room, staring. No one moving, no one speaking. I pushed through. Patient 09 was standing, not sitting, standing, next to his wheelchair, facing the wall. His hospital gown hung loose, his bare feet flat on the cold tile, his hands at his sides, and he was smiling. How long has he been like this? I asked. Nurse Patel's voice shook. I walked past 30 seconds ago. He was in his chair. I heard something, turned around, and he was standing. Did anyone see him move? Everyone shook their heads. I approached slowly. Standard de-escalation, calm voice, non-threatening posture. 09, can you hear me? Hiccups. Didn't respond, just kept smiling. At the wall, like he was watching something we couldn't see. I reached for his shoulder. My hand was 6 inches away when he spoke. 3:47. His voice was dry, cracked, like something unused for years, but clear, precise. 3:47, he repeated. I pulled my hand back. 09, I need you to sit down. 3:47, 3:47, 3:47. Over and over, same rhythm, same pitch, same dead inflection. We called Dr. Brennan. He arrived within minutes, ordered an immediate evaluation, neurological assessment, behavioral observation. We documented everything, but 09 just stood there, repeating those numbers for 2 hours straight. Then he stopped, mid-word. He stopped. His smile faded. He turned his head, slowly, mechanically, until he was looking directly at me, his eyes focused. You see it too, he whispered. See what? The space between. My skin went cold. I don't understand. 3:47. The clocks remember. Dr. Brennan stepped forward. 09, we're going to help you sit. They're waiting in the walls. Who's waiting? 09's smile returned, wider, wrong. The ones who counted down with me. Security sedated him then. 4-point restraints, standard crisis protocol. He didn't resist, just kept smiling, even as the medication took hold, even as his eyes began to close. His last words were whispered, barely audible. 1095. Complete. He went still again, back in his wheelchair, same position, same angle, same empty stare, but something was different. The clock started working again, all at once, 3:48, like nothing happened, like time had simply skipped forward 1 minute. I checked the security footage that night. I shouldn't have, but I needed to see. The timestamp showed 3:46, 09 in his wheelchair, motionless. Then the footage glitched, static, visual distortion. When it cleared, the timestamp read 3:48. 09 was standing. The footage never showed him move. One frame sitting, next frame standing, like someone cut out the middle. I reported it. Dr. Brennan dismissed it as a technical malfunction. Equipment failure during the power surge, but there was no power surge. The next morning, I found something in 09's room, behind his wheelchair, scratched into the wall, barely visible, small, precise, tally marks, 1,095 of them, grouped in fives, covering nearly 3 feet of wall space behind where he sat for 3 years. His hands never moved. He couldn't have made them, but they were there. I requested a transfer the following week, approved within days. I work in a different unit now, acute care, away from the secured ward, away from 09, but I still check the time compulsively, every few minutes, making sure the clocks are moving, making sure time hasn't stopped again. 2 months after the incident, I heard he spoke again, counting backwards from 10,000. I don't know what happens when he reaches 0. Nobody does. The nurses who still work that unit say he's on day 217. Still counting, never stopping, not even for meals or medication, just counting down. I left before I could find out why, but sometimes, late at night, I hear numbers in my head, descending, slow, methodical, and I wonder if he's counting for all of us, or if something else is keeping score. If you ever work nights here, don't look directly at the man in the reflection. My name is Dr. James Hollis, and I have worked as a forensic psychiatrist at St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Washington, D.C. for 14 years. I've evaluated serial killers. I've documented confessions that led to closed cases and solved murders. I've spent thousands of hours in interview rooms with the worst humanity has to offer, but I had never heard a confession that made me call the FBI until room 13B. The room was built in 1958. Standard psychiatric evaluation space. White walls, metal table, 2 chairs, one-way observation glass. Nothing special, nothing unusual. It was decommissioned in 1997 after budget cuts. Too expensive to maintain the old wing. Too outdated for modern protocols. We reopened it last year. Space shortage, patient overflow. Administration cleared it for use, despite the old electrical system and the persistent smell of mildew that never quite went away. I didn't think anything of it at first. The incident started in April. Patient 642, 32 years old, admitted for evaluation after a domestic disturbance. No criminal history, no red flags. Standard 72-hour hold. I interviewed him in 13B. Routine questions, mental status exam, risk assessment. 15 minutes in, he stopped answering, just stared at the corner, upper left, behind me. "Are you all right?" I asked. He didn't respond. "What are you looking at?" His jaw clenched, Sweat beaded on his forehead. When he finally spoke, his voice was flat, mechanical. I killed someone. I paused. Who did you kill? A woman. In Richmond. 2007. She was jogging. I pushed her off the trail, into the ravine. Nobody found her. I documented everything. Called the detective bureau. Richmond PD confirmed an unsolved case. Missing jogger. 2007. Last seen on a trail. Never found. The patient had no connection to Richmond. Never lived there. Never visited. He was in high school in Maryland when it happened, but his description matched case details that were never made public. I transferred him to a secure unit, opened an investigation, but something felt wrong. The way he confessed, like he was reading a script, like someone else was feeding him the words. 2 weeks later, it happened again. Patient 917, 64-year-old woman, Alzheimer's evaluation, sweet, confused, no history of violence. I interviewed her in 13B. 10 minutes in, she stopped mid-sentence, stared at the same corner, same spot. Then she confessed to drowning her neighbor's child in Oregon. 1993. She'd never been to Oregon, but the case was real. Unsolved, the details matched perfectly. I reported it to administration, requested permission to seal the room. They refused. Space constraints, no evidence of environmental factors. Keep using it. The confessions continued. 7 patients, 7 interviews, all in room 13B, all staring at the same corner, all confessing to real, unsolved murders, crimes they couldn't have committed, locations they'd never visited, details they couldn't have known. Then I interviewed patient 385. He was 47, paranoid delusions, nonviolent, court-ordered evaluation. I'd worked with him before. He was harmless. We sat down in 13B. I started the recording, asked standard questions. 5 minutes in, he looked at the corner. Do you see him? He asked. See who? The man in the glass. I turned. The observation window behind me reflected the room, the table, the chairs, patient 385, and me, nothing else. There's no one there, I said. He's standing right behind you. My neck prickled. I looked again, just our reflections, nothing unusual. Tell me what you see, patient. 385's breathing quickened. He's wearing gray, old clothes. His face is wrong, too long. He's talking, but I can't hear him. He's pointing at you. He wants you to know something. Know what? The patient's eyes rolled back. His body went rigid. When he spoke, the voice wasn't his, deeper, older, like gravel scraping concrete. 1963, Bethesda, the basement apartment. She was 19, red hair. I used a knife. She's still there, under the floorboards. He collapsed. Seizure. Medical emergency. We rushed him to the ICU. He didn't remember anything when he woke up. No memory of the interview. No memory of the confession. But I remembered. I called Bethesda PD, cold case unit, missing persons from the 1960s. They found 3 cases matching the description. One was never solved. Red-haired teenager disappeared from a basement apartment. 1963. The building was demolished in 1998. They excavated the site under the old foundation, beneath rotted floorboards. They found her. The FBI opened an investigation. They interviewed me for 6 hours, wanted to know how I knew, how any of us knew. I told them about the room, the corner, The confessions. They didn't believe me, but they couldn't explain the evidence either. I researched the room's history, archive records, old hospital documents. I found a death certificate. Jacob Weiss, patient, died in room 13B, 1961. Natural causes, heart failure during an evaluation interview. He was a suspect in 17 murders, never charged, insufficient evidence. I found his photograph in the old records. Gray clothes, long face, hollow eyes, the man patient 385 described. Administration sealed the room 3 days ago. Permanently. Structural issues, they said. Asbestos, lead paint, hazardous materials. But I know the real reason, because I went back one last time before they locked it. I stood in the empty room facing the observation glass, looking at my reflection, and I saw him standing behind me just for a second, wearing gray, face too long, mouth moving, forming words I couldn't hear. Then he was gone, but I heard the whisper, clear, inches from my ear, "You're next." I left. I locked the door. I never went back. But sometimes, late at night, I see movement in reflections, in windows, in darkened glass, always in my peripheral vision, always behind me, a figure in gray, watching, waiting. Room 13B is sealed now, but I don't think that matters. I think he followed me out, and I think he's still confessing through me. Everything in the ICU was routine that night until the monitors started tracking a patient who didn't exist. My name is Sarah Chen, and I have worked as a psychiatric nurse at Napa State Hospital in California for 8 years. I've managed psychotic episodes, I've de escalated violent outbursts, I've documented hundreds of unusual behavioral patterns. But I had never seen someone walk backwards for 6 months straight. Not until patient 444. He arrived in late September, transfer from county psych, acute psychosis, disorganized behavior. The intake report said he'd been walking backwards for 3 weeks. Refused to face forward, refused to explain why, just walked backwards constantly. I thought it was a delusion, some kind of compulsive ritual. I'd seen stranger things. His name was Thomas Wade, 41 years old, former accountant, no prior psychiatric history, normal life until August. Then something changed. His wife said he came home from work one day and started walking backwards. Out of the car, into the house, up the stairs, everywhere, backwards. He never stopped. We assigned him to Ward 8, secure unit, standard observation protocols. He adapted quickly, learned the layout backwards, navigated the hallways, used the bathroom, ate meals, all in reverse, like he'd been doing it his entire life. The staff found it unsettling, the way he moved, smooth, practiced, his head turned slightly so he could see where he was going, but his body always faced the wrong direction, always retreating, never advancing. Dr. Morrison ordered evaluations, neurological scans, psychological testing. Everything came back normal. No brain damage, no obvious pathology, just a man who refused to face forward. "Why do you walk backwards?" Dr. Morrison asked during the first interview. Thomas didn't answer, just smiled, that same strange smile, like he knew something we didn't. Weeks passed. Thomas never changed, never explained, just walked backwards through his days. Other patients avoided him. Something about the way he moved made them uncomfortable, made everyone uncomfortable. Then the surveillance footage started acting strange. It was Security Officer Martinez who noticed it first. He was reviewing the overnight recordings from Ward 8. Routine check, making sure everything was documented properly. He called me to the security office at 6 in the morning. "You need to see this," he said. He pulled up footage from Thomas's room. Timestamp showed 2:13 a.m. Thomas was asleep, lying on his bed. Normal. Martinez fast forwarded. 2:43 a.m. still asleep. 3:17 a.m. still asleep. Then Martinez rewound the footage. Thomas sat up, in reverse, not the recording playing backwards. Thomas. His movements, sitting up in reverse, like someone pulled a string and rewound his body. Martinez played it forward. Thomas lying down, normal, rewind. Thomas sitting up, in perfect reverse. "It only happens when I rewind," Martinez said. His voice shook. "Only when the footage goes backwards." We watched for 20 minutes. Every time Martinez rewound, Thomas moved, sat up, stood, walked, all in reverse, but only in reverse, never forward. "This is a glitch," I said. "Has to be." I checked 3 other cameras. Same thing. I reported it to Dr. Morrison. He dismissed it. Equipment malfunction, digital artifact, nothing to investigate. But the glitches continued. Staff started complaining, not about Thomas, about themselves, about feeling watched, about dreams of walking backwards, about waking up facing the wrong direction in bed. Nurse Patel requested a transfer. She said she kept rewinding conversations in her head, hearing them backwards over and over. Security Officer Lee quit. No notice, just left. His resignation letter was a single sentence: "I can't stop moving backwards." I didn't understand until I watched the recordings myself. 4 months into Thomas's stay, I reviewed the full archive, every night, every camera, hundreds of hours. When I rewound the footage, Thomas moved, but so did we, the staff, the other patients, everyone, moving in reverse, not just backwards playback, actual reversed movements, like the building itself was running in reverse when the footage rewound. And Thomas was always awake during the reversed sections, always awake, staring at the cameras, smiling. I felt sick. I stopped watching, deleted my copies, tried to forget, but I couldn't because I started feeling it too. The pull, the compulsion to move backwards, to face the wrong direction, to walk away from destinations instead of toward them. I fought it for weeks, but it got stronger. Then I made a mistake. I rewound security footage from my own house, my personal system, just to check, just to see. I moved. In my own home, in the recording, I moved backwards, unnaturally, while the timestamp reversed, and Thomas was there, in the corner of my kitchen, in my recording, standing, facing away, smiling at the wall. He was never in my house, but he was in the recording. I went back to the hospital, confronted him, in his room. "What are you doing?" I demanded. He turned, slowly, backwards, until he was facing away from me. "Showing you," he said, "how to leave." "Leave where?" "Forward." I didn't understand. You need help, medication, treatment. He laughed, quiet, sad. I don't go backwards, he said. You do, all of you, moving forward, toward the end. I found the way out. What way out? Rewind far enough, everything reverses, even time. He walked backwards, out of the room, into the hallway. I followed. Other patients were awake, watching. Some of them started walking backwards too, following Thomas, like a procession. They walked backwards through the ward, past the nurse's station, toward the exit. Alarms activated, security responded, but they stopped when they saw it. 20 patients walking backwards in perfect synchronization, same pace, same rhythm, like a recording playing in reverse. Thomas reached the locked door. He didn't stop. He backed into it, and it opened. I don't know how. It was locked, electronically sealed, but it opened. They walked out into the night, backwards, into the darkness. Security found them the next morning, all 20, sitting in the parking lot, facing away from the building, silent. Thomas was gone, never found, no trace, no footage, like he rewound himself completely. The other patients couldn't explain it, couldn't remember, just said they followed the backwards man. I still work at Napa State Hospital. Different ward now. I don't review recordings anymore. I don't rewind footage, because sometimes, late at night, I feel it. The pull to face the wrong direction, to walk away instead of forward. And I know Thomas was right. We're all moving toward the end. But he found the way back. And sometimes I wonder, if I rewound far enough, would I disappear too? I didn't believe in the dead returning until one of them asked me for help. My name is Michael Drummond, and I have worked as a psychiatric orderly at Patton State Hospital in San Bernardino, California for 13 years. I've restrained violent offenders. I've cleaned up after suicide attempts. I've witnessed psychotic episodes that required full sedation teams. But I had never seen 47 patients stare at the same empty corner for hours. Not until maximum security. Not until the watchers started appearing. It began in March, night shift. I was doing routine checks in D-Wing, maximum security housing. 18 patients, high risk, violent offenders, deemed criminally insane. Standard protocols, standard night. I walked past cell 4, patient inside. Was standing, facing the corner, upper right, just staring. I checked my log. Medication administered 3 hours ago. Should be asleep. Everything all right? I called through the observation window. No response. He just stood there, motionless, eyes fixed on the corner. I documented it. Moved on. Cell 7, same thing. Patient standing, same corner, same position, staring. Cell 9, same corner. Cell 12, same corner. I radioed Security Officer Brooks. Something's happening in D-Wing. Multiple patients, all standing, all facing the same direction. Brooks arrived within minutes. We walked the wing together. 14 patients, all awake, all standing, all staring at the upper right corner of their cells. What are they looking at? Brooks whispered. I checked each cell. Empty corners, nothing visible, no marks, no damage, just concrete and shadow. I don't know. We tried speaking to them, asked questions, gave commands, nothing. They didn't move, didn't blink, just stared. Dr. Reyes arrived at 2 in the morning. Emergency psychiatric evaluation. She interviewed 6 patients separately, asked what they were looking at. Each gave the same answer, the ones who never left. Dr. Reyes requested clarification. What ones? Who never left? The patients wouldn't elaborate, just repeated the phrase over and over like a mantra, the ones who never left. By morning, the patients returned to normal behavior, ate breakfast, took medication, no memory of the incident, no explanation. We documented everything, filed reports, increased observation protocols. 3 nights later, it happened again. This time, 22 patients, same corner, same position, but this time they were whispering. I couldn't make out the words, just low murmuring, constant, rhythmic, like prayer. Officer Brooks recorded audio. We played it back at the security station. The whispers were synchronized, every patient speaking the same words at the same time. They're coming through, they're coming through, they're coming through. My skin went cold. Coming through what? Brooks shook his head. I don't want to know. The incidents escalated. Every 3 nights, more patients, longer duration, always the same corner, always the same whispers. Dr. Reyes ordered structural inspections. Engineers checked the walls, the ventilation, the electrical systems, found nothing. No gas leaks, no carbon monoxide, no environmental factors. But the patients kept staring. Then staff started seeing things. Nurse Hamilton reported a shadow in D Wing, moving along the wall near the corner. She said it moved wrong, not like a person, like something trying to remember how to move. Security Officer Chen saw it too. On camera, just for a second, a dark shape in the upper right corner of cell 15. Then static, then nothing. I didn't believe them. Shadows and stress, night shift playing tricks. Until I saw it myself, week 6. I was alone in D Wing, 3 a.m., doing medication rounds. I passed cell 8, patient asleep, normal. Then I saw movement. In my peripheral vision, upper right corner, I turned. Something was there. Not a shadow, not a person. Something between. A shape, human-sized, but wrong. Too tall, too thin, standing in the corner where the walls met the ceiling. I blinked. It was gone. My radio crackled, Brooks's voice shaking. Michael, are you seeing this? Seeing what? The cameras, all of them. D-Wing, check the monitors. I ran to the security station. Brooks had 12 screens pulled up. Every cell in D-Wing. Every corner showed the same thing. Figures, standing. In the upper right corners, dark, distorted, watching the patients below. How long have they been there? I asked. I don't know. They just appeared, all at once. We watched. The figures didn't move, just stood, like statues, like they'd always been there. Then the patients woke up, all of them, simultaneously. They stood, faced the corners, and started speaking, not whispering, speaking, clear, loud. We see you now. The figures moved, descended from the corners, down the walls, slow, deliberate, like spiders. I couldn't breathe. Brooks was frozen. We just watched. The figures reached the patients, stood behind them, mimicking their posture, their position. Then the patients turned all at once, facing the cell doors, facing the cameras, and the figures turned with them. I saw faces, or where faces should be. Blank, smooth, no features, just empty surfaces reflecting the fluorescent lights. Brooks shut off the monitors. We need to call this in. Call who? What do we even say? I don't care. We need help. But when we turned the monitors back on, the figures were gone. The patients were asleep. Everything was normal, like nothing happened. We filed reports. Again, emergency psychiatric review. Again, Dr. Reyes ordered 24-hour surveillance, camera monitoring, audio recording, full documentation. The incident stopped. For 2 weeks, nothing unusual. No staring, no whispers, no figures. We thought it was over. Then Officer Chen didn't show up for shift. No call, no message. His apartment was empty. No signs of struggle, no note, just gone. Nurse Hamilton transferred out immediately. No explanation. I heard she moved to another state, changed careers, won't talk about Patton. I stayed. I don't know why. Maybe stubbornness, maybe curiosity, maybe fear that leaving wouldn't matter, that whatever's in those corners would follow, because I still see them, not just at work, at home, in my apartment, in my car, in reflections, figures in corners, upper right, always watching, always waiting. Dr. Reyes compiled a report. 47 documented incidents over 4 months, 73 patients involved, 12 staff witnesses, no explanation, no diagnosis, no solution. D-Wing remains operational. Patients come and go, new admissions, transfers, releases, but sometimes, late at night, they still stand. They still stare, and when I check the cameras, I see them too, the ones who never left, standing in the corners, watching, waiting for something. I asked a patient once, during a moment of lucidity, asked what they're waiting for. He smiled, sad, knowing, for enough of us to see them. Then what? Then they don't need the corners anymore. I don't work D-Wing anymore. I requested reassignment, different unit, different building, but it doesn't matter because last night I woke up standing in my bedroom facing the corner, upper right, and I wasn't alone. Something was standing behind me. I could feel it, cold, present, breathing. I didn't turn around. I haven't looked at corners since. I won't, because I know what I'll see, the ones who never left. And I think they're ready to leave, through us. There's a room in this hospital we're never supposed to open. I know why. My name is Dr. Amanda Price, and I have worked as a clinical psychologist at Kirby Forensic Psychiatric Center in New York for 10 years. I've evaluated murderers. I've documented delusional systems that span decades. I've treated patients who've done unspeakable things. But I had never seen 3 separate patients draw identical spirals within 48 hours. Not until room 214. Not until I learned what was buried underneath. The room was built in 1947. Standard patient housing, single occupancy, 12 by 14 feet, 1 window, reinforced, 1 bed, 1 toilet, basic psychiatric cell. Nothing special, except everyone assigned to 214 drew the same pattern. It started with patient 873, assault with a deadly weapon. Severe paranoid disorder. He'd been stable for months. Medication compliant. No incidents. We assigned him to 214. Routine placement. Overflow from the main ward. 48 hours later, the walls were covered. Spirals, hundreds of them, drawn in soap, scratched with fingernails, some small, some large, all identical, perfect geometric curves, tightening inward, clockwise, obsessive, manic. Who taught you this pattern? I asked during evaluation. 873 looked confused. What pattern? The spirals on your walls. I didn't draw anything. I showed him photographs, his cell, the walls, the spirals everywhere. His face went pale. That's not possible. You don't remember drawing these? I don't remember anything after the first night. I documented it, recommended increased observation, transferred him to a different room. We cleaned 214, repainted, made it ready for the next patient. 3 days later, patient 941 was admitted. Domestic violence, acute psychosis, no history of artistic expression, no previous patterns of compulsive behavior. We assigned her to 214. 48 hours later, the spirals were back. Same pattern, same obsessive coverage, walls, floor, even the ceiling. She'd climbed up somehow, drew them everywhere. Why did you draw these? I asked. She stared at me, hollow, empty. The voice taught me. What voice? The one in the walls. I felt cold. What did it say? Draw the way out. Draw the way out. Draw the way out. She repeated it, over and over, until sedation. I reported it to Dr. Brennan, department head. He ordered a psychiatric hold, full evaluation, neurological assessment. But I knew something was wrong, not with the patients, with the room. I researched the building history, archives, old construction records, floor plans from the 1940s. Room 214 was built over unmarked graves, 1846, before the hospital, before psychiatric care. The site was a tuberculosis sanatorium. Patients died by the hundreds, no families, no money, mass graves, shallow, forgotten. The hospital was built directly on top. Room 214 sat at the center. I brought it to Dr. Brennan, showed him the records, the graves, the pattern. Old buildings have history, he said. That doesn't explain the spirals. 3 patients, same pattern, same time frame, same room. Coincidence. It's not coincidence. He dismissed me, ordered 214 remain operational. No structural issues, no safety concerns. Keep it in rotation. 2 weeks later, patient 556 was admitted. We assigned him to 214. I requested a different placement. Denied. Space shortage. Protocol. I monitored him closely. Hourly checks, video surveillance, audio recording. First 24 hours, nothing unusual. He slept, ate meals, read books, normal behavior. Hour 36, he started drawing. On video, I watched him stand, walk to the wall, press his finger against the paint, and draw, slow, methodical, spiral after spiral. His eyes were open, but he wasn't awake, sleepwalking, or something else. I reviewed the audio. At hour 35, whispering started, faint, rhythmic, coming from inside the walls, not voices, voice, singular, repeating the same phrase, draw the way out. Hour 42, patient 556 stopped drawing, stood in the center of the room, surrounded by spirals, staring at the largest one, on the wall, above his bed. The whispering grew louder. I could hear it through the monitors, clear, distinct. Follow the pattern, follow the pattern, follow the pattern. 556 reached toward the spiral. His finger pressed it, slowly, following the curve, inward, tighter, deeper. Then his finger went through the wall, not broke through, went through, like the wall wasn't solid, like it was water or smoke. He pulled back, looked at his hand, then reached in again, further, up to his wrist. I ran, left the security office, sprinted down the hall to 214. When I arrived, the door was open. 556 was gone. The room was covered in spirals, but the wall above his bed was different. The paint was rippling, moving, like liquid. The spiral he'd drawn was glowing, faint, pulsing. I stepped inside. The whispering was deafening now, all around me, inside my head. Draw the way out, draw the way out, draw the way out. I touched the wall. It was cold, wet. My fingers sank in, just slightly, like pressing into clay. Something touched my hand. From inside the wall, fingers, cold, thin, wrapping around my wrist. I screamed, pulled back. The fingers released. I stumbled out, into the hallway, gasping. Security arrived, searched the room, found nothing. No patient, no disturbance. The wall was solid, normal. The spirals were still there, but the glow was gone. Patient 556 was never found. No exits, no escapes, no trace, just gone. Dr. Brennan ordered 214 sealed, permanently. Structural instability, hazardous conditions, no entry permitted. But I know the real reason, because I went back, one last time, before they welded the door shut. I stood in the empty room, surrounded by spirals, and I listened. The whispering was still there, quieter, waiting. Draw the way out. I looked at the wall. The spiral 556 drew. It was still there, faded but visible, and I saw movement. Behind the paint, shadows, shapes pressing against the surface, like hands against glass. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, trapped, trying to push through, the ones buried underneath, the ones who never left. I left. They sealed the door, welded it shut, marked it condemned. But sometimes, late at night, I hear the whispering in my office, in my car, in my home. Draw the way out, and I find spirals, small ones, in the corners of papers, in the condensation on windows, in the dust on my desk. I don't remember drawing them, but they're there, getting bigger, getting clearer, and I know one day I'll wake up surrounded by them, with my finger pressed against the wall, following the pattern, inward, deeper, until I find the way out, or until something finds me first. Everything in the ICU was routine that night, until the monitors started tracking a patient who didn't exist. My name is Officer David Santos, and I have worked as a correctional psychiatric officer at Fulton State Hospital in Missouri for 16 years. I've handled inmates with superhuman strength during psychotic breaks. I've been trained in crisis intervention and defensive tactics. I've witnessed things that would make civilian guards quit within hours. But I had never felt crushing pressure walk past me in an empty hallway. Not until Cell 9, and until I learned what 90 pounds could do to solid steel. The isolation wing was built in 1962. Maximum security. 8 cells. Concrete, reinforced steel doors. One-way glass observation. Designed for the most dangerous patients. the ones who couldn't be anywhere else. Cell 9 was the worst placement. End of the hall, no windows, ventilation issues, always cold, always damp. Staff avoided it. Something about the space felt wrong, heavy, oppressive. We assigned patient 327 to cell 9, dissociative identity disorder, violent episodes, court ordered commitment after attacking a nurse at his previous facility. He was small, maybe 5'6", 90 pounds, soaking wet, malnourished, weak. He looked like a strong wind could knock him over. The intake report said he was docile during transport, cooperative, no resistance. That changed after the first night in cell 9. I was doing rounds at 2 in the morning, walking the isolation wing, standard checks. Everything quiet, normal. I walked past cell 9, felt it immediately. Pressure, physical, tangible, like walking into a wall of water. My chest tightened, breathing became difficult. My ears popped. I stopped, looked around. Nothing visible, no changes, just pressure, crushing, intense. I stepped back. The pressure vanished, instantly, like crossing an invisible threshold. I stepped forward. It returned, heavier, stronger. My knees buckled. I could barely stand. I retreated, radioed my supervisor. Something's wrong with cell 9. Officer Martinez arrived 15 minutes later. What's wrong? There's pressure. When you walk past the cell, physical pressure. He looked skeptical. Show me. We walked toward cell 9 together, 10 feet away, 5 feet. Then Martinez stopped. His face went pale. What the hell is that? He whispered. You feel it? It's crushing me. We backed away, stood at the end of the hall, catching our breath. Martinez checked the observation window. Patient 327 was asleep, lying on his bed, motionless, 90 pounds, harmless. We need to document this, Martinez said. We filed reports, requested environmental assessment, building maintenance, air pressure, ventilation, anything that could explain it. Engineers found nothing. No structural issues, no airflow problems, no explanation, but the pressure remained, getting stronger every night. Staff started refusing to walk past cell 9. They'd take the long route, different hallways, anything to avoid that section. Then the handprints appeared. Nurse Winters discovered them during morning rounds. Inside cell 9, on the steel door, handprints pressed into the metal, deep, like the steel was soft clay. But steel doesn't bend like that, not from pressure a human could generate, especially not 90 pounds of pressure. I examined them myself. 5 perfect handprints, fingers, palms, clear impressions, each one sunk nearly half an inch into solid steel. How is this possible? Winters asked. I didn't have an answer. We reviewed security footage. Cell 9, night before, patient 327 sleeping. Normal, nothing unusual. Then, at 3:47 a.m., he stood up, walked to the door, placed both hands against the steel. The metal warped, bent inward, around his hands, like it was melting, but there was no heat, no tools, just his hands. He stood there for 11 minutes, pressing, the steel continuing to deform. Then he returned to bed, went back to sleep. The footage showed everything clearly, but it shouldn't be possible. Dr. Hassan ordered immediate psychiatric evaluation, physical assessment, neurological testing. Patient 327 was cooperative, answered questions. No memory of the incident, no explanation for the handprints. His physical exam showed normal strength, normal muscle mass, nothing extraordinary. He can't bend steel, Dr. Hassan said. It's physically impossible. But he did, I said. We have footage. Then something else is happening. That night, I volunteered for isolation wing duty. I needed to understand, needed to see it firsthand. I positioned myself outside cell 9, 10 feet back, out of the pressure zone, watching through the observation window. Patient 327 slept until 3:30 a.m. Then he sat up, slowly, mechanically, like something was pulling strings. He stood, walked to the door, placed his hands against the observation window. I felt the pressure increase, instantly, massively, like the air itself was compressing. My vision blurred, my ears rang. I couldn't breathe. The glass cracked, spider web fractures spreading from where his hands touched. His eyes opened, but they weren't looking at me. They were looking through me, past me, at something behind me. I turned, nothing there, empty hallway, but I felt it, the presence, massive, invisible, standing right behind me. The pressure intensified. My legs gave out. I collapsed, gasping, drowning in air. Patient 327's hands pressed harder. The glass shattered outward, pieces flying, some hitting me, cutting, but I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then it stopped. Everything, pressure, presence, all gone, instantly. I gulped air, coughing, bleeding from glass cuts, but alive. Patient 327 was back in bed, asleep, like nothing happened. I radioed for backup, medical, security, everyone. When they arrived, I was still on the floor, covered in glass, shaking. The observation window was shattered, completely destroyed, but patient 327 was untouched, sleeping peacefully. Dr. Hassan reviewed the footage, saw everything, the pressure, the glass, my collapse. This isn't psychiatric, he said quietly. This is something else. Patient 327 was transferred the next day. Federal facility, maximum security, out of state, immediate order, no appeals. Cell 9 was sealed, permanently. Structural damage, unsafe for occupancy, but the pressure remained. I feel it every time I walk that hallway, even though cell 9 is empty, even though the door is welded shut. It's still there, waiting, growing stronger. Other officers feel it too, but nobody talks about it. Nobody wants to acknowledge what we all know, that it wasn't patient 327 bending the steel. It wasn't 90 pounds of force pressing those handprints. It was something else, something that occupied the same space, something that used him, used his body, his hands, something that's still in cell 9, still pressing, still waiting. I requested transfer last month. Denied. Short-staffed, critical personnel. I'm stuck. So I walk the isolation wing every night. I do my rounds, I check the cells, but I never walk past cell 9 anymore. I take the long route, different hallway, extra time, because the pressure is spreading 6 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet from the door. It's getting bigger, stronger, taking up more space. And I know one day it won't be confined to that hallway anymore. One day it'll fill the entire wing, the entire building, and we'll all feel it. That crushing weight, that invisible presence pressing down, pressing in, until something breaks, until something bends, until 90 pounds becomes infinite. I never reported what happened that night, but it still follows me. My name is Dr. Catherine Liu, and I have worked as a psychiatric therapist at Western State Hospital in Washington for 11 years. I've conducted thousands of individual therapy sessions. I've treated everything from depression to severe personality disorders. I've maintained strict confidentiality and professional boundaries with every patient. But I had never heard two patients speak in perfect unison from separate floors. Not until they died the same night, same minute, same position. It started with routine therapy sessions. Two separate patients, two separate diagnoses, two separate floors, no connection between them, no shared history, no possibility of contact. Patient 682 was on the third floor, male, 53 years old, bipolar disorder with psychotic features, stable on medication, pleasant, cooperative. Patient 914 was on the sixth floor, female, 28 years old, severe depression with dissociative episodes, quiet, withdrawn, no history of violence. They'd never met. Different admission dates, different treatment teams, different buildings before transfer, nothing linking them. I was assigned both cases through random rotation. Just coincidence. Standard clinical load. I saw 682 first, Tuesday morning, 10 a.m., standard 50-minute session. We discussed his medication, his mood, his sleep patterns, normal therapeutic conversation. Then he said something strange. She's listening right now. Who's listening? The woman on the sixth floor. She can hear us. I paused. How do you know about a woman on the sixth floor? I don't know her, but she knows me. We share the same thoughts. I documented it. Possible delusion, paranoid ideation. I made a note to monitor. That afternoon, I met with 914, 2 p.m., sixth floor therapy room. 5 minutes into the session, she interrupted me. He told you about me this morning. My skin went cold. Who told me about you? The man on the third floor. He said I was listening. How do you know what he said? Because I was listening. I felt unease creeping in. Have you two met? No, but we don't need to meet. We're already connected. I ended the session early, went to the nurse's station, checked both patient files, cross-referenced admission dates, family histories, previous facilities, geographic locations, nothing, no overlap, no connection, impossible for them to know about each other, unless staff talked. Gossip, casual conversation. I questioned the nurses, the orderlies, security. Nobody discussed patients across floors. Nobody mentioned 682 to 914 or vice versa. Protocol strictly forbid it anyway. I scheduled another session with 682 Thursday morning. Needed to understand how he knew about her. I started with direct questions. Tell me about the woman on the sixth floor. Her name is Elizabeth. She's 28. She tried to die 3 times. She has brown hair, a scar on her left wrist. She's afraid of mirrors. Everything was accurate, down to details not in her file, private details, things only she would know. How do you know this? We talk every night, 3:17 a.m. She speaks, I speak, same words, same time. That's not possible. He smiled, sad, knowing. You'll see. I went directly to the 6th floor, found 914 in the day room, pulled her for an emergency session. Tell me about the man on the 3rd floor. She didn't hesitate. His name is Robert. He's 53. He has 2 daughters who don't visit. He dreams about drowning. He counts ceiling tiles to fall asleep. 24 tiles in his room. All correct, all private, all impossible for her to know. How are you communicating? We don't communicate, we synchronize. I don't understand. At 3:17 every morning, we become the same person, same thoughts, same words, same breath. I scheduled overnight observation for both patients. Separate monitors, separate recording equipment. I needed documentation. That night, I stayed at the hospital, set up in the security office, 2 screens, 682 on the left, 914 on the right. Both were asleep by midnight. Normal, no disturbances. 3:16 a.m., 682 sat up in bed. 6 seconds later, 914 sat up. Same movement, same speed, same position. They turned, facing the same direction, north, both staring at their walls. At 3:17 exactly, they spoke. The boundary is thinning. Perfect unison, same words, same inflection, same rhythm. I heard it through both audio feeds, overlapping, identical. My hands shook. I increased recording volume. They continued speaking. We are not separate. We have never been separate. The walls are illusion. Distance is illusion. This body is illusion. Back and forth. 3rd floor and 6th floor, synchronized perfectly, like one voice split between 2 people. Soon there will be no boundary. Soon there will be no walls. Soon we will merge completely. I radioed the night nurses. Check on 682 and 914. Now. Both nurses reported the same thing. Patients sitting up, speaking, eyes open, but not responsive, not aware of their presence. The speaking continued for 37 minutes, then stopped. Simultaneously, both patients laid back down, back to sleep, normal, like nothing happened. I reviewed the footage frame by frame. The synchronization was perfect, down to the millisecond. No delay, no variation. Impossible, but documented. I reported it to Dr. Morrison. Department head, he ordered psychiatric evaluation, neurological assessment, brain scans, sleep studies. Both patients were cooperative during testing, but the results showed nothing abnormal, no shared brain patterns, no neural anomalies, no explanation. The synchronized speaking continued every night, 3:17 a.m., same duration, same perfect unison. Staff started avoiding their floors during that time. The night nurses requested schedule changes. Security officers took extended breaks. Something was wrong. Everyone felt it, but nobody could explain it. Then, 3 weeks after the first incident, they died. Both of them. Same night. 3:17 a.m. Cardiac arrest. Simultaneous. 38 seconds apart according to official records. But the monitors showed something different. Same second, same heartbeat, same flatline. I was reviewing footage when it happened. I saw everything. At 3:16 a.m., they sat up, like always, turned like always, spoke like always. The boundary is gone. Then they stopped breathing. Together, their hearts stopped. Together, they fell back. Together, exact same position, arms at sides, heads tilted left, eyes open, staring at nothing. The resuscitation teams arrived within minutes, tried everything defibrillation, CPR, medication. Nothing worked. They were gone. Autopsies showed no cause of death. Healthy hearts, clear arteries, no drugs, no toxins, no physical reason for cardiac arrest. They just stopped, together. The official report listed it as unexplained sudden death. Rare but possible coincidence, but I know better because I kept the recordings, all of them, every night, every word, and I listen to them sometimes, late at night, when I can't sleep. That synchronized voice, speaking as one, describing the thinning boundary, the merging, the becoming, and I wonder if they succeeded, if they found what they were looking for, if they finally became one, or if something else found them first, something that speaks through multiple mouths, something that erases boundaries, something that merges until there's nothing left but perfect unison. I still work at Western State Hospital, but I don't take overnight shifts anymore. I don't stay past dark, because sometimes when I'm alone in the therapy rooms, I hear them, both voices, speaking together from somewhere in the building. The boundary is gone, and I know they're still here, still speaking, still synchronized, waiting for someone else to listen, someone else to merge. And I'm afraid one day I'll wake up speaking with them in perfect unison, saying words that aren't mine, becoming part of something that has no boundary, no separation, no end. Everything in the ICU was routine that night until the monitors started tracking a patient who didn't exist. My name is Nurse Jennifer Walsh, and I have worked at Mendota Mental Health Institute in Wisconsin for 7 years. I've managed medication schedules for hundreds of patients. I've monitored vital signs during psychotic episodes. I've documented behavioral patterns that psychiatrists used for diagnosis and treatment planning. But I had never heard someone count backwards for 8 months straight. Not until he reached 0. Not until the power failed for 3 states. Patient 777 arrived in January. Transfer from county lockup. No name in the system. Just the patient number. Acute psychosis. Nonverbal. Catatonic presentation. Standard 72-hour evaluation hold. He sat in the intake room, motionless, eyes open, staring forward. The psychiatrist asked standard questions. Name, age, location, date, no response, just silence. They admitted him to Ward C, secure observation, standard protocols. I was assigned to his care rotation. Day 3, he started counting. I was doing evening medication rounds, walked past his room, heard a voice, quiet, steady, rhythmic. 9,997. 9,996. 9,995. I checked the observation window. 777 was sitting on his bed, lips moving, eyes focused on nothing, just counting. Backwards, I documented it. First vocalization, possible breakthrough, standard psychiatric note. He counted all night. The night nurse reported continuous counting, no breaks, no sleep, just numbers. Descending, by morning, He'd reached 9,712. That's 285 numbers in 8 hours, Dr. Patel said, roughly one every 2 minutes. Why is he counting backwards? I asked. Compulsive behavior, possibly ritualistic. We'll monitor. Days passed. 777 never stopped counting. He counted during meals, during medication administration, during shower time, during sleep hours. Continuous, relentless, mechanical. 9,000, 8,000, 7,000, down and down. The staff started feeling uneasy. Something about the counting, the consistency, the precision, never missing a number, never hesitating, never stopping. What happens when he reaches zero? Security Officer Mills asked. Nobody answered. Nobody wanted to think about it. Weeks turned into months. 777 counted through everything. Psychiatric evaluations, physical exams, recreational therapy. He participated mechanically, following instructions, but always counting, under his breath, constant, endless. 6,000, 5,000, 4,000. Other patients started reacting. They'd stop talking when they heard him count, stare at their walls. Some covered their ears, some rocked back and forth, like the counting disturbed something deep inside them. Patient 442 attacked. Oh, nurse said the numbers were breaking reality, said he's counting down to the end. She was sedated, transferred, but her words stayed with me. 3,000, 2,000, 1,000. The closer he got to zero, the more wrong things felt. Electronics malfunctioned near his room. Lights flickered, monitors glitched, phones cut out mid-conversation. Maintenance checked everything, found no issues, but the problems continued. Month 7, 777 reached triple digits. 998, 997, 996. Staff started requesting transfers, different wards, different shifts, anything to avoid Ward C, to avoid the counting, the countdown. Dr. Patel ordered psychiatric intervention, medication adjustment, behavioral therapy. Nothing worked. 777 kept counting, unstoppable. Month 8. He reached 10, 9, 8, 7. The entire ward went silent. Patients, staff, everyone, just listening, waiting. 6, 5, 4. I was at the nurse's station, 30 feet from his room, but I heard him clearly, like he was whispering directly in my ear. 3, 2, 1. He stopped. Complete silence. For the first time in 8 months. No counting. No voice. Nothing. I checked my watch. 3:17 a.m. Then every light in the facility went out. Complete darkness. Emergency backup generators failed. Battery-powered exit signs died. Everything. Simultaneously. The silence was absolute. No humming electronics. No ventilation. No ambient sound. Just darkness and silence. I fumbled for my flashlight. Dead battery. Impossible. I'd changed it that morning. Then I heard breathing. Close, too close. In the pitch black, something standing next to me. 0, it whispered. Not 777's voice. Something else. Deeper, older, like stones grinding together. The lights came back on, flickering, weak. Emergency power. I was alone. Nothing next to me, but my skin was ice cold, like I'd been standing in a freezer. I ran to 777's room. The door was open. Shouldn't be. Electronically locked, but open. He was sitting on his bed, staring forward, lips moving. 10,000. He started counting again. From the beginning, same rhythm, same precision. I radioed security, Dr. Patel, administration, everyone. The power outage had affected 3 states, Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, millions of homes, hospitals, infrastructure, all failed simultaneously. At 3:17 a.m., the news called it unprecedented. Grid malfunction, technical failure, investigation pending. But I knew, we all knew, it wasn't technical failure. It was 777, counting down to zero, reaching some kind of threshold, some kind of boundary. And when he crossed it, reality flickered, power died, something happened, something we couldn't explain, couldn't prevent, couldn't understand. The authorities questioned everyone at Mendota, searched for sabotage, terrorism, cyber attacks, found nothing, no evidence, no explanation. The official report blamed cascading system failures. Rare but possible, pure coincidence, with 777 reaching zero. But Dr. Patel knew better. He ordered continuous observation, 24-hour monitoring, audio recording, video surveillance, documentation of every number. 777 kept counting, 9,000, 8,000, 7,000. Down again. I requested transfer, denied, critical staff. They needed experienced nurses. So I stayed, I listened, I documented. Every day, every shift, the counting never stopped. What happens when he reaches zero again? I asked Dr. Patel. He didn't answer, just looked at me with hollow eyes, exhausted, afraid. It's been 4 months since the first zero. 777 is at 6,315 now, descending steadily, one number every 2 minutes, never stopping, never sleeping. 4 more months until he reaches zero again. 4 months until 3:17 a.m., until the lights go out, until something crosses over. I've started having nightmares, the same dream every night, standing in darkness, hearing that voice, ancient, inhuman, counting backwards, zero. And when I wake up, I find myself counting too under my breath, without meaning to, backwards, always backwards. I'm at 732 now. I don't know when I started. I don't know how to stop. The other staff are counting too. We don't talk about it, but I hear them in the break room, in the hallways, whispering numbers, descending, all of us counting down, different numbers, different speeds, but all moving towards zero. I don't know what happens when we all reach it. When 777 reaches zero again, when whatever's counting through him finishes the countdown. But I know it's coming. I can feel it. Building, growing like pressure before a storm. 4 months left, maybe less, then darkness, then silence, then zero, and whatever comes after. I'm at 715 now, still counting, can't stop, won't stop, until zero, until the end. I never reported what happened that night, but it still follows me. My name is Dr. Marcus Webb, and I have worked as a dentist at Trenton Psychiatric Hospital in New Jersey for 19 years. I've performed thousands of dental examinations on psychiatric patients. I've treated everything from severe neglect to self-inflicted injuries. I've seen rotted by medication, broken by grinding, destroyed by poor hygiene. but I had never seen perfectly healthy teeth turn completely black overnight. Not until patient 592, not until 3 staff members developed the same condition within a week. It started on a Tuesday morning. Routine dental screening. Patient 592 was scheduled for his annual exam, standard procedure required for all long term residents. He was 46 years old, paranoid schizophrenia, stable on medication, compliant, pleasant. I'd examined him the previous year. His dental records showed normal oral health, some staining, minor plaque buildup, nothing unusual. I called him into the examination room. He sat in the chair, opened his mouth. His teeth were black, completely black. Every tooth, from gum line to edge, solid, uniform, like they'd been painted with ink. I blinked, checked his chart, verified the patient number, correct file, same patient. When did this happen? I asked. He looked confused. When did what happen? Your teeth. They're black. No, they're not. I held up a mirror. He looked. His face went pale. He touched his mouth, ran his tongue over his teeth, started shaking. That's not possible. They were normal yesterday. I brushed them last night. They were normal. I documented everything, called for Dr. Harrison, department head. She arrived within minutes. How long has he had this condition? She asked. According to his last exam, less than 24 hours. That's impossible. Teeth don't change color overnight. But they had. I pulled his previous records, photos from the last examination, 12 months ago. Normal teeth, slight yellowing, typical adult dentition. Now completely black. I ran every test available, x-rays, tissue samples, chemical analysis. The black coloration went through the entire tooth structure, not surface staining, not decay. Something had changed the tooth itself at the molecular level. What could cause this? Dr. Harrison asked. Nothing I've ever seen. Not tetracyclines and staining, not fluorosis, not necrosis. The teeth are alive, healthy, just black. We isolated patient 592. Quarantine protocols, possible infectious agent, possible contamination. We tested everything: water, food, medication, environmental factors. Nothing, no explanation, no cause. 3 days later, Nurse Chen called in sick. Dental emergency. She went to her regular dentist, came back in tears. Her teeth were turning black, 2 molars, lower left, same solid black coloration, same impossible transformation. She'd examined patient 592 2 days prior. Routine, vital, check. Standard patient interaction, nothing unusual. I examined her teeth personally. Identical presentation, healthy tooth structure, just black, like someone flipped a switch. Did you touch his mouth? I asked. No. I took his temperature, checked his pulse, that's all. Did he breathe on you? Cough? Spit? No, nothing. But her teeth were black and spreading. By evening, 4 teeth. By morning, 7 teeth. Security Officer Reynolds was next. He'd escorted patient 592 to recreation, walked beside him for 10 minutes. No physical contact, no close interaction. His front teeth turned black overnight. 4 incisors, top and bottom. He looked in the mirror and screamed. Then Orderly Martinez. He'd delivered meal trays, stood outside 592's room. Door closed. 6 feet of distance, his canines, both sides, black. I reported it to administration, to the health department, to the CDC, possible contagion, unknown transmission, rapid spread. They sent investigators, infectious disease specialists. They examined patient 592, took samples, blood, saliva, tissue, ran every test in their database. Nothing. No bacteria, no virus, no fungus, no parasite, no toxin, no radiation, no chemical agent. The teeth were just black. Impossibly, inexplicably black. More staff developed symptoms. Nurse Patel, Dr. Morrison, Security Officer Lee, anyone who'd been near patient 592, even brief exposure, even across rooms, the black teeth spread like infection. 2 teeth, 5 teeth, 10 teeth, entire mouths turning black, one tooth at a time, slowly, inevitably. We quarantined the entire ward. No entry, no exit, full isolation. But it didn't matter. I started feeling it a week after the first case. Sensitivity. In my left molar. I checked, looked normal, but the sensation persisted, like pressure, like something pushing from inside. The next morning, it was black. I stared at my reflection, professional dentist, 19 years experience, perfect oral hygiene. And now, one black tooth. I touched it, felt wrong, cold, dense, like stone instead of enamel. Within 3 days, 5 teeth. Within a week, 15 teeth. I stopped looking in mirrors. The CDC couldn't explain it. They quarantined us all, hospital staff, patients, anyone exposed, 73 people, all developing black teeth, all healthy otherwise, no pain, no decay, just transformation. Patient 592 remained stable. His teeth stayed black, but he showed no distress, no symptoms. He smiled sometimes, that black smile, like he was proud. Why is this happening? I asked him during an examination. He looked at me, really looked, his eyes focused, clear, sane. Because you looked inside, he said. Inside what? The mouth is a doorway. You opened it. Now it opens you. I didn't understand. Still don't. But my teeth kept changing. 20 teeth now. 23. 26. Only 6 remain normal. White, healthy, temporary. The others feel different, heavy, cold. Like they belong to something else. Something that's slowly replacing me. One tooth at a time. The CDC released us after 3 months. No contagion detected, no public health risk, just unexplained dental anomaly. Rare, unfortunate, unsolvable. We went home, back to our lives, but changed, marked. I still practice dentistry. Different end to hospital, different state. I don't talk about Trenton, about patient 592, about the black teeth, but I see it sometimes. In other patients, one black tooth, hidden in the back, easy to miss. They don't mention it, don't seem to notice, but I know. I recognize it. That same solid black, that same impossible transformation. It's spreading, slowly, quietly, through the population, one person at a time, one tooth at a time. Last month I saw a cashier with 3 black teeth. She smiled, didn't seem to care. Yesterday, a child, maybe 7 years old, one black molar. Her mother didn't notice. This morning, my wife. She brushed her teeth, looked in the mirror, Smiled, one black tooth lower right. She didn't see it, or pretended not to. I didn't tell her. What would I say? That it's spreading, that it's contagious, that there's no cure, that eventually everyone will have black teeth, that the mouth is a doorway, and something is coming through. I have two white teeth left now. Two. They'll be gone soon. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, then I'll be completely black, completely transformed, completely open, and I'll smile like patient 592 smiled, like all of us smile now. That dark smile, that knowing smile, that doorway smile, because we've looked inside, and now it looks back, through us, with us, as us, one black tooth at a time. There's a room in this hospital we're never supposed to open. I know why. My name is Dr. Lisa Moreno, and I have worked as a speech pathologist at Metropolitan State Hospital in California for 14 years. I've treated patients with aphasia, stuttering, selective mutism, and every communication disorder documented in clinical literature. I've used audio analysis equipment to diagnose and treat hundreds of cases. But I had never heard someone repeat everything with a 7-second delay. Not until patient 831, not until we discovered the second voice underneath. Speaking words no one had said yet. She arrived on a Wednesday, transfer from county psychiatric. Female, 34 years old, no name in records, Jane Doe, found wandering Highway 101. Nonverbal, unresponsive, standard 72-hour hold. Dr. Chen assigned her to me. Speech evaluation, communication assessment, determine cognitive function through language response. I brought her to my evaluation room, sat her down, standard setup, recording equipment, microphone, audio analysis software. Can you tell me your name? I asked. Silence, 7 seconds. Then she spoke. Can you tell me your name? Perfect mimicry. My voice, my inflection, my cadence. Exactly. That's echolalia, I noted, common in autism, brain injuries, some psychiatric conditions, not unusual. What day is it? I asked. 7 seconds. What day is it? Same voice, same tone, 7-second delay. Consistent. I ran standard tests. Object naming, sentence repetition, conversational prompts. Every response came exactly 7 seconds later. Perfect echo, mechanical precision. I documented everything. Severe echolalia, fixed delay, possible neurological damage, recommended brain scan. But something felt wrong. The delay was too consistent, too exact, not approximately 7 seconds. Exactly 7 seconds to the millisecond. I reviewed the audio recording that evening. Standard practice, quality check, documentation. That's when I heard it. Underneath patient 831's echoed responses was another voice, faint, layered, speaking different words. I isolated the frequency, enhanced the audio, filtered out the primary voice. The second voice was clear, distinct, speaking full sentences, but it was speaking my next questions. Before I asked them, I felt cold, checked the timestamp. Patient 831 echoed, "Can you tell me your name?" at 7 seconds, but underneath, the second voice said, "What day is it?" at 3 seconds. My next question, before I asked it, 3 seconds before, impossible, unless it was audio contamination, recording error, technical glitch. I scheduled another evaluation. The next day, fresh equipment, new recording system, isolated room, no possible interference. Good morning, I said, 7 seconds. Good morning. But underneath, faint, the second voice. How are you feeling? My next question, I hadn't asked it yet, but there it was, in the recording, 3 seconds in, 4 seconds before I spoke. I tested it deliberately, planned my questions in advance, wrote them down, followed the script exactly. Every time, the second voice spoke my next question 3 to 4 seconds early, before I said it, before I even opened my mouth. This isn't possible, I told Dr. Chen. Audio feedback, crossed wires. I tested it 12 times, different equipment, different rooms, same result. He listened to the recordings, heard the second voice, the future questions. His face went pale. What is this? I don't know. We brought in audio engineers, technical specialists. They analyzed everything, the recordings, the equipment, the room acoustics. They confirmed it. Two distinct voices, one echoing the past, one speaking the future, both coming from patient 831 simultaneously. She's not just repeating, the engineer said. She's receiving from somewhere, somehow. I tried different approaches, asked random questions, changed my script mid-session, improvised, tried to trick the delay. Didn't matter. The second voice always knew, always spoke my next question, 3 to 4 seconds early. Then I asked something I hadn't planned, spontaneous, unscripted. What's your real name? 7 seconds. What's your real name? But underneath, the second voice said something different. Not my next question, something else entirely. Help us. I froze, rewound the recording, played it again. Help us. Clear, desperate, pleading. Who needs help? I asked immediately. 7 seconds. Who needs help? Underneath, the ones who are trapped. My hands shook. Trapped where? 7 seconds. Trapped where? Underneath, between the words. I stopped the session, left the room, stood in the hallway, breathing hard. Dr. Chen found me. What happened? The second voice. It's not predicting, it's communicating. Communicating what? A message, a call for help. I went back, alone, against protocol, but I needed to understand. How many are trapped? I asked. 7 seconds. How many are trapped? Underneath. Hundreds, thousands, all the unspoken words, all the silenced voices. How do I help you? 7 seconds. How do I help you? Underneath. Listen. Don't just hear. Listen. I listened, really listened, to the recordings, hours of audio, days of sessions, filtered, enhanced, isolated. The second voice wasn't alone. There were more, dozens, hundreds, all speaking at once, overlapping, layered beneath patient 831's echoes, all saying different things, different words, different languages. Some I recognized, some I'd never heard, all desperate, all trapped, all trying to be heard. What are they? Dr. Chen asked. Words that were never spoken, thoughts that were silenced, voices that were stopped. That's not medically possible. Nothing about this is medically possible. We tried to help, amplified the voices, recorded them, transcribed them, gave them documentation, gave them presence, but patient. 831 started deteriorating physically. She lost weight, stopped eating. Her skin turned pale, gray, like she was fading. The voices are consuming her, I said. We need to stop the sessions. We can't. They need to be heard. But Dr. Chen was right. Patient 831 was dying. The voices were too many, too loud, too demanding, using her body, her voice, her life force. We stopped the evaluations. Silence. No more questions. No more recordings. Patient. 831 stabilized, but she stopped echoing completely. Total mutism. No responses, no voices, nothing. The recordings remained, hundreds of hours, thousands of voices, all trapped, all unheard. I listen to them sometimes, late at night, in my office and alone, and I hear new ones added recently. Voices that weren't there before, speaking my thoughts, my unspoken words, my silenced fears, my voice underneath the layers, trapped, waiting, calling for help, 7 seconds behind, or 7 seconds ahead. Time doesn't matter there. Between the words, between the spoken and the unspoken, I'm still working at Metropolitan State Hospital, still treating communication disorders, still recording sessions, but I hear them now in every recording, every patient, every session, the voices underneath, the unspoken, the trapped, and I know one day I'll be there too. Between the words, 7 seconds out of phase, speaking into the void, waiting for someone to listen, really listen, to hear what's underneath, what's always been underneath, the echo we all leave behind, the words we never said, the voices that got trapped between breath and silence, between now and 7 seconds from now. Patient. 831 died last week. Heart failure, natural causes. She was 34. They cremated her. No family, no name, just Jane Doe 831. But I still hear her in the recordings, in the static, in the silence, echoing forever, 7 seconds behind, 7 seconds ahead, and the second voice still speaks, still calls for help, still waits for someone to listen. I didn't believe in the dead returning until one of them asked me for help. My name is Officer Thomas Rivera, and I have worked as a psychiatric security officer at Bryce Hospital in Alabama for 8 years. I've managed violent outbursts. I've de-escalated hundreds of crisis situations. I've heard screaming, cursing, threats, and pleas that would make most people walk away from this job forever. But I had never experienced absolute silence from 32 patients simultaneously, not for 6 days, not until they all screamed in perfect harmony on day 7. It started on a Monday morning, night shift handoff. Officer Chen briefed me on the overnight. Standard report. Medication rounds completed. No incidents. All patients stable. Anything unusual? I asked. He paused. It's quiet. Really quiet. That's good, right? I don't know. It feels wrong. I started my rounds. Maximum security wing. 32 patients. Violent offenders. Criminally insane. Usually the loudest section of the hospital. But Chen was right. It was quiet. Not just quiet. Silent. Completely silent. I checked the first cell. Patient inside was awake, sitting on his bed, staring at the wall, not moving, not speaking. Second cell, same thing. Patient awake, silent, staring. Third cell, fourth cell, fifth cell, all the same. Awake, silent, motionless. I checked my radio. Central, this is Rivera. All patients in maximum security appear nonverbal, no communication, no responses. Medical emergency? Negative. They appear alert. just not speaking. Nurse Davidson arrived. We went cell to cell, checked vital signs, asked questions, gave commands. Nothing. Every patient was awake, responsive to physical stimuli, but completely nonverbal. This is bizarre, Davidson said. Some of these patients never shut up, ever. Patient 218 usually yelled constantly, threats, delusions, paranoid rants, 24/7. Now, silent, just sitting, staring. Patient 347 was known for singing old hymns, show tunes, whatever came to mind. Non-stop, now, silent, lips closed, no sound. All 32 patients, complete silence, simultaneous onset, no explanation. Dr. Warren ordered immediate evaluations, neurological, psychological, medical, every test available. Physical exams showed nothing wrong. Vocal cords intact. No paralysis, no injury. Patients could swallow, could breathe normally, could physically speak. They just didn't, or couldn't, or wouldn't. Day 2, still silent. Every patient. No change, no communication, not even gestures, just sitting, standing, staring, silent. Staff started feeling uneasy. The silence was oppressive, heavy, like walking through water. The maximum security wing had never been this quiet, ever. It's like they're waiting, Officer Mills said. Waiting for what? He shook his head. I don't know, but I don't like it. Day 3, maintenance reported equipment issues, intercoms malfunctioning, door sensors glitching, lights flickering, all in maximum security, nowhere else. Environmental factors? Dr. Warren suggested. Everything tests normal, the engineer said, but something's affecting the systems, some kind of interference. Day 4. The silence was maddening. Staff started avoiding maximum security, taking breaks more frequently, requesting assignment changes. The weight of it, the wrongness of it, too much. I forced myself to keep walking rounds, checking cells, monitoring patients. They never moved, never spoke, just sat or stood, all facing the same direction, north, toward the wall, toward nothing. Day 5. I started hearing things, not sounds, the absence of sound, negative space like the silence was speaking, whispering, but no words, just presence, awareness. You hear it too? Davidson asked. Hear what? The silence. It's not empty. Something's in it. She was right. The silence had texture, density. It pushed against my ears, my skull, like pressure, like drowning in quiet. Day 6, 3 staff called in sick, 2 requested transfers, 1 quit, no notice, just walked out, said he couldn't take the silence anymore, said it was talking to him, in his head, in his dreams. Dr. Warren ordered psychiatric evaluation for staff, stress, auditory hallucinations, occupational anxiety, standard diagnosis. But I knew better. The silence was real, tangible, growing. That night, I stayed late, voluntary. Someone had to watch them. Someone had to understand. I sat in the observation room, monitors showing all 32 cells, all 32 patients, sitting, standing, staring, silent, 3 a.m., 6 days exactly since the silence began. Every patient moved simultaneously, turned, faced their cell doors, faced the cameras, faced me, their mouths opened, wide, impossibly wide, jaws extending, faces distorting. Then they screamed, all 32 at once, perfect unison, same pitch, same volume, same impossible frequency. The sound was physical. It hit me like a wave, knocked me backwards. The monitors shattered, all 12 screens, exploding, glass everywhere. The lights blew out, every bulb in maximum security, popping, darkness. The scream continued, loud, endless, echoing through the walls, through my bones, through my mind. I covered my ears, didn't help. The sound was inside me, inside everything. Then it stopped, instantly. Complete silence again, deeper than before, absolute. Emergency lights activated, red, dim, flickering. I checked the cells through the observation windows. Every patient was back in position, sitting, standing, staring, silent, like nothing happened, like they never screamed, but my ears were bleeding, my hands shaking, blood running down my neck from the sound, from the impossible scream. Security found me 20 minutes later, sitting in broken glass, covered in blood, shaking. What happened? Officer Chen asked. They screamed. We didn't hear anything. All of them, together, for minutes. You didn't hear it? He shook his head. The security station is 50 feet away. We would have heard screaming. But they didn't. Only me, only the person watching, only the person paying attention. Dr. Warren reviewed what remained of the recordings. The hard drives were corrupted, magnetic damage, data loss, but he recovered 3 seconds, just 3 seconds, from the moment of the scream. Audio analysis showed frequency patterns, waveforms, but not human vocals, something else, older, deeper, like grinding stone, like tectonic plates shifting. What made this sound? Dr. Warren asked. 32 patients, screaming in perfect unison. That's not possible. This frequency would require synchronized vocal cord vibration at levels humans can't achieve. But they did. Day 7, morning, the patients were talking again. All of them, normal, conversational, like the silence never happened, like the scream never happened. Patient 218 was yelling threats. Patient 347 was singing hymns. Everything back to normal, routine, standard, except me. I can't hear normally anymore. Constant ringing, pressure, damage from the scream, and I hear the silence still underneath everything. Underneath voices, underneath sound, the silence that speaks, that waits, that remembers. The other staff don't remember the 6 days, or they pretend not to. Too disturbing, too unexplainable, easier to forget, easier to move on. But I remember I was there, I watched, I listened, and I heard what they were really doing. They weren't silent for 6 days. They were building something, charging something, preparing something, and on day 7, they released it. Through that scream, that impossible, synchronized, perfect scream, released what? I don't know, but I feel it, in the silence, in the spaces between sounds, growing, spreading, waiting to speak again. I still work at Bryce Hospital, different wing now, away from maximum security, but it doesn't matter because sometimes, late at night, I hear them, all 32, in my head, in my dreams, silent, waiting, and I know they'll scream again, someday, when whatever they released is ready, when the silence is full enough, when it's time to speak, really speak, in that voice that breaks glass and bleeds ears and changes everything. I'm waiting. We're all waiting in the silence, together, or day 7. Everything in the ICU was routine that night until the monitors started tracking a patient who didn't exist. My name is Nurse Rebecca Stone, and I have worked at Central State Hospital in Indiana for 12 years. I've cared for catatonic patients. I've managed feeding tubes and pressure sore prevention for bed-bound residents. I've documented thousands of behavioral observations for psychiatric review, but I had never seen someone draw architectural blueprints from memory, not of buildings demolished 50 years before their birth, not with perfect accuracy, not until patient 444. He arrived in March, transfer from state prison, male, 29 years old, catatonic, no verbal response, no voluntary movement, standard long-term psychiatric placement. His name was David Cross. Assault with deadly weapon, found incompetent to stand trial, brain injury during arrest, severe cognitive impairment, diagnosis, persistent vegetative state. We set him up in Ward D long-term care, feeding tube, catheter, pressure relief mattress, standard protocol for non-responsive patients. I was assigned to his care rotation, basic nursing, vital signs, position changes, hygiene maintenance, simple work, sad work, but necessary. For 3 months, David Cross never moved, never opened his eyes, never showed any awareness. Textbook vegetative state. Then one morning during bed bath, I found drawings on his sheets, drawn in something dark. I looked closer. Blood, his blood, from a small cut on his finger, probably from a rough nail edge. But the drawing wasn't random. It was architectural, detailed, a floor plan, rooms, hallways, measurements, labels, main ward, west wing, isolation cells, staff quarters. I checked the labels. They matched Central State Hospital, but not the current layout. This was different, older. I showed it to Dr. Pierce, medical director. Where did this come from? He asked. Patient 444, David Cross, the catatonic patient. He's vegetative. He can't draw. But he did, somehow. Dr. Pierce examined the sheet, the drawing, the detail. His face went pale. There is the original 1883 layout. What? Before the renovations, before the fires, before we rebuilt. This is the original blueprint. That's impossible. The building was completely reconstructed in 1947. He wasn't even born. I know. We reviewed David's medical history. Born 1994. No connection to Central State. Never visited. Never worked here. No family history. Nothing. But he'd drawn the original layout. Perfectly. Rooms that hadn't existed in 70 years. Maybe he saw old records, Dr. Pierce suggested. Archives. Historical documents. He's been catatonic for 4 months, and those blueprints are sealed, research access only. We monitored him closely, video surveillance, hourly checks, hoping to catch him drawing, hoping to understand. 2 weeks later, new drawings appeared, more detailed, more extensive, not just floor plans. Elevations, cross-sections, underground tunnels, sub-basements, morgue facilities, all matching historical records, all perfectly accurate, all impossible for him to know. The tunnels, I said, those were sealed in 1952, filled with concrete. Nobody's been down there in decades. But David knew, drew every turn, every room, every forgotten space. Dr. Pierce ordered a psychiatric evaluation. Despite the catatonia, despite the diagnosis, something was happening, something we needed to understand. Dr. Rahman conducted the assessment, brought David to the evaluation room, set up paper, pencils, left them accessible. David sat motionless, eyes closed, no response, standard vegetative presentation. Dr. Rahman left the room for 10 minutes, standard observation protocol. When he returned, the paper was covered, not random marks, not scribbles, another blueprint, more detailed than before. Patient Ward C demolished section, original location. Ward C burned in 1938. 15 patients died, 7 staff members. The entire wing was destroyed, razed, rebuilt in a different location, but David drew it. Original location, original layout, room numbers, bed positions, everything. How does he know this? Dr. Rahman asked. Nobody had an answer. The drawings continued every day, multiple sheets covering every version of Central State Hospital that had ever existed: 1883, 1896, 1912, 1924, 1938, 1947, 1961, every renovation, every reconstruction, every demolished wing, every sealed tunnel, every forgotten room, all drawn with impossible precision, all historically accurate, all from someone who shouldn't know, couldn't know. Then David started drawing rooms that didn't match any records. Sub-basement level 4, isolation chamber, unmarked. There was no sub-basement level 4. Official records showed the 3 basement levels. That's all. Dr. Pierce ordered structural surveys, ground penetrating radar, architectural assessment, looking for proof, looking for validation. They found it, 40 feet below the main building, hidden, sealed, concrete-filled stairwells, blocked corridors, an entire level, erased from history, erased from records. But David knew, drew every room, every cell, every chamber. Why was this sealed? I asked. Dr. Pierce pulled restricted files, old superintendent reports, incident logs from 1897, unauthorized treatments, experimental procedures, 23 patients died, state investigation, facility temporarily closed. When it reopened, they sealed the level, buried the records, buried the history. And David drew it. Every room, including ones marked unmarked in the superintendent's private notes. Details that were never officially recorded. We tried to understand. Theories, explanations, genetic memory, psychic phenomena, quantum, consciousness. Nothing made sense. Then David drew something new, not historical, not past, future. New wing, East Edition, planned construction, 2027. There was no planned construction, no East Wing Edition, no 2027 project. But 3 weeks later, the hospital board announced expansion plans. New psychiatric wing, East Side, projected completion 2027. David had drawn the blueprint before it was designed, before it was approved, before it existed. The architects compared his drawing to their preliminary plans. 97% match, including details they hadn't finalized, including changes they were considering but hadn't documented. He's not remembering, Dr. Rahman said quietly. He's accessing. Accessing what? The building, its memory, its history, its future. all of it, like he's downloading blueprints directly from the structure itself. We isolated David, moved him to a different facility, away from Central State, away from the building. The drawings stopped completely. No more blueprints, no more architecture, just catatonia, just vegetative silence. But Central State Hospital changed small things, doors opening to rooms that shouldn't exist, hallways extending further than blueprints show, staff getting lost in familiar sections. The building remembers, and now it knows someone saw, someone accessed, someone downloaded its secrets. I still work at Central State, but I don't trust the layout anymore. I don't trust the floor plans. I don't trust the walls. Because sometimes I find drawings, small ones, tucked in corners, sketched in dust, drawn by no one, appearing spontaneously, new rooms, new tunnels, new levels, growing, expanding, changing, and I know David didn't create the drawings. He just transcribed them. The building drew itself through him, using him, and now it draws itself through the walls, through reality, through us, room by room, level by level, reality by reality, until the blueprint matches, until the building becomes what it remembers, what it plans, what it knows it will be. Central State Hospital is growing beneath us, around us, through us, and we're all just lines on the blueprint, drawn by something that was here before we were, something that will be here after, something that maps itself perfectly, impossibly, forever, one room at a time. I never reported what happened that night, but it still follows me. My name is Officer Alan Foster, and I have worked as a security coordinator at Rochester Psychiatric Center in New York for 15 years. I've installed surveillance systems. I've monitored thousands of hours of footage. I've documented every security anomaly and equipment malfunction according to strict protocol. But I had never seen someone cast no shadow under direct light. Not until patient 12, but until every camera malfunctioned in his presence. Not until I realized his admission papers list his birth date as unknown and place of origin as unverified. He arrived on a Thursday evening, late admission, no advance notice, just appeared in the system. Patient number 12. No name, no identification, no history. Intake form was incomplete. Height, average. Weight, average. Age, adult. Birth date, unknown. Origin, unverified. Diagnosis, observation pending. Who authorized this admission? I asked the night supervisor. State transfer, emergency placement. That's all I know. There's no paperwork, no medical records, no background. I know. File the security report. We'll sort it tomorrow. They assigned him to Ward B isolation cell, standard protocol for unknown admissions. Potential danger, minimal interaction until evaluation. I watched the intake on security cameras. Patient 12 walked calmly, cooperative, average height, average build, unremarkable appearance, except one thing: no shadow under the fluorescent lights, under the bright hallway illumination. No shadow. I checked the camera angle, the lighting, the recording quality. Everything looked normal, but patient 12 cast no shadow, just walked through light, leaving no darkness behind. Technical glitch, I muttered. Digital artifact. Compression error. Something. I flagged it for review, continued monitoring. Cell assignment went smoothly. Patient 12 entered, sat on the bed, remained still. Standard behavior. I switched to cell camera. Internal observation. Infrared capable. High resolution. State of the art equipment. The camera feed cut out. Static. Complete signal loss. Central. This is Foster. Cell B12 camera malfunction. No video feed. Running diagnostics, the tech responded. System shows active. Signal strong. Camera functional. Then why am I seeing static? Unknown. All indicators normal. I checked adjacent cells. All cameras working. Just B12. Just patient 12's cell. Static. I walked to the cell, checked the observation window. Patient 12 was sitting. Visible, real, but the camera showed nothing, just static. This doesn't make sense, I said. I returned to the security station, reviewed the intake footage again, enhanced the image, zoomed, analyzed, no shadow, confirmed direct overhead lighting, perfect conditions for shadow projection, but nothing, just the patient 12, walking, casting no darkness. I pulled up at other camera angles, hallway, corridor, intake, room, every location he passed, every lighting condition, no shadow anywhere. That's physically impossible, tech support said. Objects block light, shadows form, basic physics. Look at the footage. They looked, verified, confirmed, no shadow, no explanation, no precedent. Dr. Walsh ordered immediate evaluation, physical exam, neurological assessment, determine if patient 12 was safe for general population. The examination room had 12 cameras, multiple angles, redundant systems, best surveillance in the facility. All 12 cameras failed when patient 12 entered. Simultaneous malfunction, complete video loss, audio continued, but no visual. We can't conduct evaluation without observation, Dr. Walsh said. The cameras won't work. None of them. Not near him. That's impossible. Different systems, different manufacturers, different power sources. I know, but they all fail, only around him. We tried backup systems, portable cameras, smartphone recording, tablet documentation, everything. All failed within seconds of proximity to patient 12. Screens went dark, lenses clouded, circuits fried. He's generating some kind of interference, the engineer said. Electromagnetic, thermal, something. We tested. No unusual radiation, no heat signature abnormalities, no magnetic field disruption, nothing detectable, nothing measurable. But cameras failed every time, consistently. How do we monitor him? I asked. Direct observation, human eyes only. I volunteered. Overnight watch, observation window, manual documentation, no electronics, no cameras, just me watching. Patient 12 sat motionless. Hour 1, hour 2, hour 3. Not sleeping, just sitting, staring at the wall. Hour 4. I felt it, pressure, behind my eyes, like something watching me back, through the glass, through the wall, through reality. I stepped away, took a break, splashed water on my face. The feeling persisted, being watched, being studied, being recorded. By what? By whom? I returned to the window. Patient 12 had moved, standing, facing the observation window, facing me. He smiled, not threatening, not friendly, just acknowledging. like recognizing someone he knew. Then I noticed the lights in his cell were on, bright, direct overhead fluorescent, standard institutional lighting. Patient 12 stood directly beneath. Perfect lighting conditions, maximum shadow projection potential. No shadow on the floor, on the walls, on anything. He stood in light, but cast no darkness. I blinked, looked away, looked back. Still no shadow, still impossible. Patient. 12 raised his hand, waved, slow, deliberate, like greeting an old friend. I felt cold, deep cold, bone cold, like standing in a freezer. But the hallway was climate controlled, temperature normal. He pointed at me, then at the camera above my head, the security camera, the one monitoring the hallway. I looked up, dead, dark, no light, no recording, failed like all the others. When I looked back, patient 12 was sitting again, back in original position, like he never moved, like the wave never happened. My log showed no gaps, no missing time, but I felt wrong, displaced, like I'd lost minutes, hours, days. I checked my watch, 4:37 a.m., correct time, no displacement, but my hand, in the light, cast a shadow, normal, expected, physical, except the shadow was wrong, the angle, the length, the shape, like light was coming from two directions, like two suns, two sources, two realities. I left, ended my shift early, filed incomplete observation report, requested replacement. They found me in the parking lot, sitting in my car, staring at my hands, at my shadow, at the wrongness. "Are you okay?" Dr. Walsh asked. "My shadow, it's different." "What do you mean?" "Since I watched him, since he waved, since he pointed, my shadow doesn't match anymore, doesn't align, doesn't belong to me." Dr. Walsh thought I was having a breakdown, stress, fatigue, occupational trauma, standard diagnosis. But I know better. Patient 12 did something, changed something, marked something. He has no shadow because he is shadow or beyond shadow or before shadow, something that exists without blocking light, without creating darkness, without leaving evidence. And now I'm connected, marked, watched, patient. 12 disappeared 3 days later, just gone, cell empty, no exits, no escapes, no trace, just vanished. Security footage from that night shows static, all cameras, all systems, complete failure. For exactly 12 minutes, when they returned, he was gone, and his admission file was deleted completely. No patient 12, no record, no proof he existed, except me and my shadow, and the feeling of being watched, always watched, by something without shadow, something that stands in light but casts no darkness, something that knows my name, my face, my location, my reality. I still work at Rochester Psychiatric Center, but I avoid bright lights, avoid direct illumination, avoid situations where shadows form, where darkness should appear, because when I stand in light now, my shadow moves wrong, angles wrong, exists wrong, like it belongs to someone else, something standing behind me, casting no shadow of its own, using mine, wearing mine. Patient 12, always there, always watching, always present, without presence, without shadow, without origin, without end.